Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 17585 Southwest Sugar Plum Lane here in Beaverton. We're located on the left side of the house. On the backyard side of the fence here we have it's a 3-inch cap, but it's a 4-inch cast iron clean out here next to the hose bib. This will be our point of access. I'm going to insert the camera and check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. We currently have water running. Off we go. It makes a transition here over to concrete pipe. It appears to also be 4-inch in diameter. I think this might be transite concrete. You've got gasketed joints here, so that does appear to be the type of pipe it is. The difference, aggregate concrete has aggregate rock in the mix with the mortar, and this transite concrete has asbestos fibers. There's that big scary asbestos word, but it actually holds up generally quite a lot longer than regular concrete does. You have far less joints for roots to get through. And we'll take another look at this joint on the way out. Can't tell what's going on here. We'll get a better picture of everything when the line's all drained out. Got a couple earthworms in here, looks like. And those guys actually weasel their way through pipe joints. You can see right here, this is, in fact, there's an earthworm coming, it just came out of that joint there. There's still rubber fernco showing between the pipe joint there. More than likely, we still have overlapping fernco on either side of that joint. It's essentially keeping it sealed off from the ground. A pipe joint that is open to the ground, you are typically going to have dirt coming through, and a lot of times it's actually from the earthworms tunneling in and out of the pipe. They'll push little bits of dirt through. Most of these joints I've seen so far, except for maybe one of them, are showing some level of separation, but I'm not seeing dirt and stuff coming through the pipe, nor roots or anything like that. Now here at 53 feet, we've reached the main. I'm going to go do locates, and then we'll let the pipe drain out. Alright, located the camera head successfully, and the line actually doesn't go out to the street here in this circumstance. If you're looking at the front of the house from the street, the line heads to the rear left corner of the property, goes about 2 feet beyond the fence line and hits the main. There's probably some, I can't guarantee there's a contract for an easement, but whenever this is set up this way, there's likely some type of easement. You could check records to verify that. Anyway, and with the amount of water or rain we've been having today, I mentioned earlier, that one earthworm I mentioned may have been coming out of that joint. I have no way of guaranteeing that. It was just right next to one at the time. Sometimes those dang things can come from all over the place. Now, I'm not seeing a lot of signs of tunneling where they come in and out, but they can squeeze through spaces that roots can't even get through in most circumstances. But if you have a compromised joint that's open to the ground, and when you've had this much rain, typically when you have saturated ground like that and you have a joint that's opened up, you're going to get water dripping through the pipe. It's very easy to see generally. It'll be dripping down. So not like the joints are perfect or anything, but most of these, in my opinion, are just not worth repairing at this point. But we'll see. Now that the line's drained out, we may have a better view of everything. Like this joint obviously is showing a little separation, but there's still rubber fernco showing between there and not ground or dirt around it. Ideally, those things are butted up nice and tight, but this is very, very common stuff with older sewer pipe. Had this been made out of aggregate concrete, we'd probably be looking at more so of a repair. This type of pipe has joints every 10 feet rather than every 2 or 3 feet, so you have a lot less points of access for roots and all kinds of stuff to come through and happen. That, and it remains smooth. Where aggregate starts to wear out in the flow line, it becomes very, very rough and can catch debris coming down the pipe. Now right here, we've got something at the pipe joint. I just don't know what the heck it is exactly. It's not brown. Doesn't look like dirt. It could be something else that's come in here and it's just kind of gunked up. It could also just be a big wad of toilet paper that got stuck there. And whatever it is, it looks like it's layered over that joint. I just cannot tell what it is. The only way you're going to be able to see underneath that would be to do a hydrojet or an auger and remove it, and then come back in here and rescope and see if you can see a hole in the pipe or something like that. Now that is one thing that does happen commonly with transite concrete. At the joints, you'll often, right about where the joint, basically where my camera's at right now, you'll start to get these little tiny holes that will open up at the concrete. Not necessarily through the fernco on the outside of the pipe, but the joint down near the flow line will often start to crack and make these little tiny holes in the pipe. That might be what we have going on here. It's possible whatever that is has come from the outside of the pipe. It's just a very odd color. It's rusty and it's also white. Those are not typically colors you see when you've got stuff coming in from the ground. Generally, if it's dirt, it's just going to be brown and look like dirt, or roots, or which are quite obvious. So it's possible that we've got something like that going on there. There's just no way to tell what it is exactly. It could simply just be debris that's collected at the joint there, and that's about it. So here at 13 feet, what I'm going to do is recommend a drain cleaning and a rescope. If you want to find out what's underneath that, that's the only way you're going to be able to tell. And I would recommend going the route of probably an auger first to see if you can bust that loose. The jetters on these older lines, it can be kind of hard on them, that high pressure water. But at this point, I'm not seeing any major debris buildup here. It doesn't appear that whatever's there doesn't appear to be affecting the flow in a significant way. But there's potentially something going on there. And when you have a line of this age, especially one that drains out this nicely, I'm a huge fan of epoxy liners, because you can update a line without even having to dig a hole, which is a beautiful thing when it comes to sewer repairs. So as nicely as this line drains out here, this is the only standing water I've seen in the pipe, which is in no way, shape, or form a concerning amount of standing water. It's less than a quarter inch of water there for about a foot. So you could do a pipeliner to update this thing. You could go a lot of different routes, trenching and all kinds of stuff. But in my opinion, the line is not there yet. If you have a joint there that's worn out, this is not a terribly deep pipe. It would be easy to spot repair it. But when you've got an old line and you have to start doing spot repairs, you kind of want to start looking at the cost difference between doing a spot repair versus doing like an epoxy liner and updating the whole thing. In many circumstances, for not a whole lot more than the cost of a spot repair, you can often do an epoxy liner and update the whole stinking line. So we're all done here. At 13 feet, I recommend a drain cleaning and a rescope to see if something's going on there. It could just be debris buildup. But it's right at a pipe joint. Whenever stuff is stuck at a joint, it would be different if it was stuck just in anywhere else in the pipe where there's not a pipe joint. But joints are often the weakest spot in the line, and typically where a lot of things occur at. So you could drain clean it, rescope it, and see if you can see a hole there or something going on. Sometimes you can actually get roots that come through. Dirt will build up over or not dirt, but debris will build up over the top of it and hides it completely from your view. It could be something like that. It could be absolutely nothing as well. So just keep that in mind when deciding whether or not you want to go that route. Unfortunately, at this time, I am not able to tell you what it is, nor would anyone else be able to until that thing's been cleaned. Now, I'll push back out here and locate and mark it just for reference purposes. And that water right there is just water we pushed out of that little bit of standing water at the start of the line. Alright, in the event a repair needs to be done here, if you go the route of trying to drain clean and look into this further, it's located right in the middle or inside of a planter box here in the backyard. It's the planter box that's closest to the rear fence line. It's one that stands all alone. Now I've got that marked with a white X there. We're at 3 feet deep, not terribly difficult to get down to. I'm going to go ahead and reel the camera out of the line though. Aside from being a possible issue there at 13 feet, everything else we've scoped here today, there are some minor separations at joints, but not a single one of them except for maybe at 13 feet, and even what's there does not look like stuff that's come from the ground, unless there's something underneath it that's been covered up by debris. But all the joints are not showing any signs of actually being open to the ground. We saw some earthworms in there, but those puppies can come from all over the place. They could have come from the main, out in the street up to this point. So There's no signs of any openings to the ground at those joints. For that reason, I'm not recommending any repairs on those. But at 13 feet, we have a possible issue, which you could go the route of drain cleaning and rescoping to see if there's an underlying issue going on there or not. But at this time, we have good flow to the main lateral. All the pipe is, I'll call it in fair condition. It's not great. It's an older sewer line that at some point will have to be updated. But it'd be a very easy update if you wanted to go the liner route. It saves money, and you don't have to dig. It's a great option when that time comes. But at this point, line is functioning very nicely. It's other than that little spot there at 13 feet, there's not a speck of debris inside the whole line.